Alright, welcome to Revit 2019 Demo 35. For this lecture, we're going to talk about creating the title block family for your final project. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up Revit 2019 Demo 34 just as a placeholder, and then we're going to go into File, New, Family, or you can do File, New, Title Block. Let's go ahead and choose Title Block, and that's going to pop this window open for New Title Block. For this project, we're going to do an ArcD size sheet. In the Gallatin College book, it says to create a 24 by 18. To save us the time, we're going to create the D size 36 by 24, which is the same size as an ARC D size sheet. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. Once this is open, we need to create a custom line style for the title block. But before we do that, we want to verify the dimensions. So we're going to hit DI, and we're going to dimension the overall length, the horizontal and the vertical. And so zooming in on the vertical is 24 and the overall is 36. That's perfect. These edges under the subcategory of title block are your printable edges. And what that means is these lines will not print. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new line style. So we're going to go to Manage. And then under Manage, we want to create Object Styles. And under Object Styles, we want to create a new one under the subcategory of title blocks called Border 9. And so for Border 9, what we want to do is we want to set Border 9, it's going to be all one word, to a line weight of 9. And we want to set the line color to black and the line pattern to solid. And we're going to hit Apply. Okay. And now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and create that line of border style 9 as a rectangle from here to here. And you'll notice because my thin lines are off, yours may be on, so you may not see the thickness right away, but if you hit TL or hit thin lines, it'll show you the thickness of that. Now you can use your temporary dimensions to set the spacing to be a 1/2 inch spacing across the board. So we want to do that for all values. So I'm just going through here and just associating these to be a 1/2 inch spacing away from everything. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Those are all set up. Now what I want to do is I want to start to create labels. So we're going to do labels and text. So we're going to come up here to the Create tab and we're going to create a label. And this label can be clicked anywhere in space, and we're going to choose Sheet Name. And when I use sheet name, I'm going to hit Apply OK. And then there's a little rotation here. I can rotate this label however I want. So if I want it to be 90 degrees, I can. If I want it to be at an angle, I could. But realistically for this one, we're going to go ahead and leave it as just sheet name horizontal. Now, what we want to do is we want to start to create different label sizes. So from here, what we'll do is you'll notice I have the label tag up here. We want to edit the type. This type dialog or type properties will open up, and we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to call it 1/4 inch Arial bold. Hit OK. And we want to make sure this is Arial 1/4 inch, and then set it to bold. Hit OK. And then we're going to edit the type, duplicate the type. We're going to create a 1/4 inch Arial. Hit OK. Turn off the bold. Duplicate, and we want to create a 1/16 Arial. So we're going to do 1/16 inch Arial, and we'll make sure we change this value to 1/16 inches. And notice that this is creating a catalog of sizes as we go through. So we'll go ahead and duplicate this again, delete the 2, change this to 3/32 inches, make sure that this is set to 3/32, and then go to the next value, which is going to be 1/8 inch Arial. And now we have all the sizes that we want. We have the 1/4 inch Arial, the 1/4 inch Arial bold, the 1/8 inch Arial, the 1/16 inch Arial, and the 3/32 Arial. And what you can do is you can go through and make sure that your sizes are set correctly. Make sure you've changed all the values to associate to the correct sizing. So if I just go through and click, I should see the sizes update as I click through, and that's great. So we'll start with this 1/4 inch Arial bold. What I will be looking for on your final title block is going to be located on page 262, I believe, of your Gallatin College book. Oh, I'm sorry, 291 of the book that you've printed out. I've made modifications to it, so it's changed the page number, but your book that you've printed is 291, or the one that's on D2L. And so if you come over here and look, I'm looking for the project name to be 1/4 inch Arial bold, the sheet name to be 1/4 inch Arial, the sheet number to be 1/4 inch Arial, the scale to be 3/32 Arial, file path, client name, and drawn by on those values. So as we go through and create it, like we will here, like you can see here, that's what we're gonna do. So for the point of this exercise, let's go ahead and go through and do that. So what we're going to do is create this first one, because I had it set as sheet name to be according to page 291 1/4 inch Arial. So 1/4 inch Arial it is. There's my sheet name. And then if I look at the image that's on the next page of 292, I'm going to follow this layout. So I'm going to put project name. I'll kind of just size this thing down. So we'll just put this in here, set this here, kind of just to kind of help us out here. And then you can kind of see as I'm building this, I'm just looking at those values. So I set that at 90, and then I can click in white space, and I want sheet name. That's what I had the first one as. So we'll move sheet name once we finish making our labels. The next one's going to be project name, so we're going to choose project name. Now, the value that project name wants to be is going to be 1/4 inch Arial bold, and we'll just size that up, change that over here. We'll move that in a second. If I hit escape twice, that'll allow me to move it, and then I'm just kind of aligning them as you can see here. And then I just want to make sure that this is set to 1/4 inch Arial bold. So I have that set to bold, that set to Arial. So those values have been locked in and set. I'm checking my properties panel to make sure that those are associated correctly. Now what I want to do is I want to create my sheet number. So we're going to come up here and hit create label. We'll just click up here. We'll look for sheet number, and then we'll hit OK. Sheet number is going to be 1/4 inch Arial. Oops. It's not going to let me change it until I'm done with the command. Notice how that stayed at 1/4 inch Arial bold. So one thing you'll want to do is you'll want to just escape out of the command and make sure you're setting these correctly as you're doing it. Notice this line that shows up as I place things. It's putting it to the top. That helps kind of create a guideline when I'm placing text. So just know that that's there. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to adjust or place the scale now. And the scale according to this is right above the sheet number. So we're just going to go create label, and I can set the scale to 3/32 Arial before I place it, and then it'll place it correctly. And then I'm looking for scale. We'll hit apply. Okay, that came in at the right scale. I can rotate that, hit escape twice, click on it, drag and drop it into place, lock it in. And then these values are going to basically fit along here. Now we may end up sizing these up because we're on an ArcD sheet, but for now let's just get these ballpark to look like these. I know these are hard to read. If you hit Control and zoom in, it's still kind of hard to read. It's just due to it being a lame screenshot of it. So, but what we want is a client name, and then a file path, which is below that, and then we want drawn by, which is going to be this one, DRN. So we'll go ahead and place those now. So we'll hit create, label, we'll place a file path of a 1/16 inch Arial here. We'll look for file path right here, place that over. That's in place. We'll rotate it. Oh, remember, you can't really rotate it until you've exited the command. So we'll kind of rotate that, move it into place, look for those snaps that we were talking about. Those are there. And then we can, actually what we can also do is you can copy these labels. So you could copy this one up and then copy it up again, because there's 3. And then you can edit the labels here. and just change these. We want drawn by. Make sure you don't do 2 like I just did. I had 2 selected, drawn by. And then this one also needs to be an 1/8 inch aerial. So we'll change that to 1/8 inch. And notice it's just adjusting because it's that database. It's helping us out quite a bit. We'll edit this label. We'll set this to client name. Client name. Take file path off. Apply. Okay. And now you've got ballpark, kind of the rough structure that I'm looking for a title block. Now we can drag these into place as well. Notice that that's snapping. That's ballpark what I'm looking for. I think that'll work for now. And we'll just kind of continue through this lecture. Now these are labels. We need text in front of them to identify the labels. So what we can do is we can create text now because we're in the title block. So what we could do is we can move this up. Now what I mean by these being labels is that these are reading from parameters. So really we want text in front of them that explain really what they are and what they're doing. So what we can do first is we'll create text, which is just right here, tx as well. And this one you're gonna notice that it comes in as text note 1. I'm gonna maximize this real quick to give us a little bit more visibility. And we're gonna edit the type, and we're gonna duplicate this. And we're going to call this one 3/32 inch aerial. Hit OK. 3/32 inch aerial. Yes, we had to create it twice. That's because this is text rather than a label. So we're going to hit OK. And when you hit this drop down, notice that the other values aren't showing up. That's because this is within the text note and not within the label note. Now that's going to be the text throughout the board of what we're creating. So we'll do the first one as project name in capitals. Notice that it's there. I can make this bold if I wanted to. I don't want to right now. So we're going to just put that one here. Now you can snap however you want. I think I'm just going to place it somewhere roughly eyeballing it in the middle. And then I'm just going to copy that down and do the same thing. Click into the text block. This is just dumb text because it's just not referring to a label. It's referring to a label, but it's not pulling a parameter. That's why I call it dumb text, because it won't live update like these will. And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy these values over to here. And we can use that kind of to align these. I get a little crafty with it to try to get things aligned correctly. Now notice how these are overlapping. Sometimes if things are overlapping, it can create problems. I don't think it will in this case, but we'll check as we pull this into our project. That's the best way to deal with things in Revit, is to just kind of see what's going to happen. And you can see it here. These aren't being affected, so we're good. Drawn by. And then we want this one to be client name. And I'm just coming in here and just adjusting those text values, and then making sure that the spacing is roughly even. Just using my arrow keys, really. And then I'll copy these again up here, and we'll adjust this to scale. And we can change this to sheet number, or just sheet. Let's see, yeah, that looks right. And then we can align this value here, and now we've got it ballpark pretty close to the way I'm looking for it. Just kind of cleaned up. And now one thing we can do is come back in here and start laying out our lines. So we can actually create similar of these lines. It's not going to let us, so we'll just create a line. And we'll come in border 9. And I'm just going to ballpark draw this title block into place of how I'm looking for it. And so 3.5 inches, that's fine. That looks about right. And then I can center these kind of in their space, make it look decent. And then I can set this other value. We'll just go ahead and create line here, 9.25. Let's just make things pretty even. 9.5, 3.5. It just kind of helps tidy things up. And then if I copy this line now, 7.5. Now I have room down here for a logo. And one thing you could do to insert a logo is you could insert an image. So if you had some kind of logo that you wanted, you could put that in here. You could create that and literally just come in, insert image, and then you'll find and navigate to whatever image you want. If I go to like, let's go to pictures. So if I go to my computer, pictures, and if I just do, let's do saved pictures. Nope, don't have any in there. We can do desktop wallpaper and just, this is a crazy size image, but if I was to place this image, this is the process I'd go. I just navigate to that image file. One thing to pay attention to, like this could be the logo of my project. It's a bit dark. I wouldn't want this to be the logo. But what I'm looking for is more or less like your initials or whatever your company logo is, something that you've created before can go here. This should also probably be a bit more square or so. So if we did like, let's see how far up we went with this. We went 1.5 inches. So we could set this to 1.5 inches as well. That's just going to make the title block look a lot nicer, keeping things uniform. And then just kind of arrow keying these down, getting them in place. And that's roughly what I'm looking for. So what we're going to do is we're going to file, save as, family, and you'll save this in wherever you're saving your demo files. So I'm going to save this in my Gallatin College demo files, and I'll call this, I'm saving it under families. We'll call this ArcD, make sure your cap locks is off, ArcD 24 by 36 title block, and we'll call it custom title block. And you can call it and add your name at the end. So I'll go ahead and put Brian at the end of this. You don't have to put a dash. You can do a space, hit save, and I'll load this into the project. And what that's going to do, can't create this kind of element in this view mode. That's fine. That's because we're not on a sheet. But if we go down to families and look at annotation symbols, I should see that ArcD custom title block Brian. And then in there, it's the type of title block that I have. So technically what I could do is I could create a parametric title block that has all those sizes in it, and I could adjust those sizes. But what we're going to do is we're going to go into just this sheet here, and I'm going to just do the drop down to this custom title block, and now you'll notice that I have the title block that I'm looking for. So I loaded that, I saved this title block just as a recap. I saved this title block to ArcD 24 by 36 custom title block Brian. I loaded it into the project. You want to load it in and close it. And then you have it saved now on your flash drive or wherever you're saving these demo files. And then you went into a sheet inside of the sample project and you adjusted it. One thing also to show is I don't have other title blocks shown in this demo project. So I could select all in entire project, change this drop down to custom title block Brian, and as I click through these, you're going to notice that my title block's been associated. But also what you're going to notice is I don't have a, okay, so this is backwards, so this is where you want to check yourself before you wreck yourself on some of this stuff. So what we can do, let's start with this value here. If I come in here and edit the family, I can zoom in on file path, and because that file path is longer than where this is, I can drag these deals out. So I can drag these out, and that's just going to help kind of tidy things up. This is backwards, so I probably want to go like that. Notice how that top arrow was in the bottom right rather than the top left. And then I want to pull the sheet name out, and then I want to pull the project name out. And I just want to give it some room to breathe. And so once that's in there, we can go ahead and save it again. Yes, I want to overwrite it, load into project and close, overwrite the existing version, and that'll update that file path. Now, because these are labels, I could fill these values out. Another thing to note is that you can also come into your manage project information, and a lot of the variables that are in here are going to be associated to those labels that we pulled in. So our client name we know is Sean Peterson. So we'll set that. I'm using caps intentionally And I also didn't have you put an address at this point in time, but that's okay. Project name is a home for Mr. Peterson. And then project number, we'll go ahead and set project number to 1. I don't think that's being called out yet either. That's fine. And then building name we didn't do. So let's go ahead and hit OK there. And you'll notice that that live updates all of these. Now author, go ahead and say, put your name in. So I just put my name in. And then my title block's there. It's all set up. And that live updates all my other sheets because those labels are associated. So I want you to go ahead and create this same title block. And I want you to create your own logo. I will eventually have you create a more custom title block, but this will be a great foundation for your final project. So for now, we'll go ahead and just get back into that elevation view that we were in. I think it was south. And we'll just go ahead and save south elevation. So from here, I want you to go to File, Save As, Project, revit2019demo35, save, and I will see you in the next lecture.